Hey there, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. Netflix's new show, The Asunta Case, true crime story, talks about Asunta, a young girl who found herself in Spain at her new parents' home all the way from China. A young girl of several talents and a brilliant mind couldn't survive the plans of destiny as she got murdered at the tender age of 12 years old. The prime suspects in her gruesome murder were her own adoptive parents. The couple was going through a divorce when the girl got murdered. Not only a divorce, but in addition to the emotional trauma the girl received, her mother was emotionally and mentally unstable and relied on heavy medication to subside her effects. With the same medication injected into the young girl in high dosages, the girl lay dead, and a trial was initiated to find the culprit guilty. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Asunta? Asunta was a young girl from China, born on September 30th, 2000. She was adopted by a Spanish couple, Rosario Porto and Alfonso Basterra, at the very young age of 9 months in 2001 from the Guiyang Welfare Institute. She was born Fang Yang in China, and she was also the first Chinese child to be adopted in Santiago City. The couple used to live in Santiago de Compostela, Galicia. Asunta was an extremely talented child. A few of her major talents included ballet, violin, and piano. The adoptive parents of Asunta had gotten divorced during her upbringing. Rosario apparently had lupus and severe depression. In 2013, Alfonso also discovered his wife's infidelity when he resorted to checking her emails. And on January 8th, they got separated. Their divorce decree came in on February 14th by mutual agreement. Alfonso used to take care of the girl and his ex-wife, and in return, Porto supported Alfonso financially. Asunta used to go back and forth between the two houses, as the couple chose to live in close quarters. This decision was taken considering Asunta's age and her need for care and affection. The girl was also extremely close to her maternal grandparents. They died a year prior to her death. These details portray that Asunta didn't have an easy time in her new life. Asunta was unfortunately found dead in Spain at the young age of 12 years on 21st of September 2013. Talking about her disastrous death, she was drugged and then later succumbed to death just a few days before her 13th birthday. Her death was a huge shock in Spain, and people didn't accept it graciously. As the story moves further, we get to witness that the adoptive parents are being targeted as the prime suspects. That sends chills throughout the public and somehow alters their image permanently. Their alterations in behavior and statements also made the public more susceptible to charging them guilty. The show tried to explore Asunta's life as more than a victim. We got to peek into her life with more than just the sentiment of sympathy. Her relationship with her parents, her personality, her interests, and her mental health were all brought into consideration. The motive behind her death had to be concrete and had to be substantiated with proper proof, and so everything was looked into in the TV series The Asunta Case. What happened to her? The case began when the adoptive parents reported their child missing to the police. According to them, Rosario last saw her back at home, where she left her before leaving. When the investigation for this murder case started, it ended in her adoptive parents being found guilty of the crime. Asunta was 12 years old when she was brutally murdered by her adoptive parents. Her body was found near the house itself in the early hours of the day by two random men. In the autopsy report of the victim, a medication, lorazepam, was found in the body of Asunta in high dosages. Since the quantities of the medication were so high in her body, the authorities were led to believe that she'd been on similar dosages for a longer time. However, when asked about the motive or intent behind this gruesome murder, there were none, which led to more suspicion and confusion surrounding the case, making it more tragic. Rosario's case became strong when, during her investigation, her statements were altered from time to time. Her suspicious behavior also accounted for her guilty conduct, which led to her conviction. During the investigation, the authorities also found a few circumstantial pieces of evidence, such as the twine that was used to bind Asunta, which was also found at the Porto's country house. When the trial was going on, the adoptive parents tried their best to remain innocent. However, justice prevailed as the law was able to see through the false pretenses and looked at the real truth. The show primarily focused on the trial, with the presentation of both sides' evidence and arguments. The couple was sentenced to 18 years in prison. However, fate didn't favor her much, as she didn't live long enough to completely enjoy her talents. This murder has left a huge impact on Spain and is quite gripping. The show settled the justice part, however, the lack of a concrete motive makes the whole thing quite flaky. There are some additional things to note that aren't shown in the series, which might reduce some of our confusion. The whole investigation into this tragic case was named Operation Water Lily. The medication that was given to the young girl was actually the medication her mother was prescribed for her anxiety. Some of the statements changed by Rosario over time were her dropping off Asunta at a country house, which was clearly evident in the CCTV cameras, in contrast to her statement where she stated she left the girl back at home. Rosario was arrested by the police first due to inconsistencies in her statements on the day of the cremation of Asunta. The next day, Alfonso Basterra was arrested by the police solely for buying lorazepam for his ex-wife. What happened to her adoptive parents? Are they still alive? Rosario Porto and Alfonso Basterra, both parents, were found guilty of killing their daughter and sentenced to 18 years of long-term imprisonment on 30th of October 2015. The mother also asked her lawyer to put up an obituary in the paper for her daughter every year. She was extremely depressed after getting imprisoned to the brink of being watched for suicide. However, as soon as her prison was shifted to a new one, it was informed that she'd committed suicide on 18th of November 2020. On the other hand, her father is still serving his time in prison. He was arrested for helping out Rosario. However, as the show progresses toward its end, it's shown in an implied manner that he didn't do anything. However, the reason for his covering up for Rosario wasn't also clearly shown. The couple had pleaded with the court to turn over their convictions, however, the court denied them. Why did they kill her? The show did have a proper build-up until the arrest of the adoptive parents. However, there was a misrepresentation of the clear motive behind such killings. It was practically not fathomable for anyone as to why they killed their own daughter. The TV series has tried to showcase various reasons or theories for the same in an open-ended way. It's up to the audience to fill up the puzzle piece and choose the most accurate one, as no clear answer was ever recorded. One of the theories mentions Rosario Porto's difficulties in her financial life. She had also taken up an insurance policy for Asunta. It's unsure if she required money at the moment, maybe for her medications, maybe because she was getting divorced, but it still remains unclear. However, the same was not shown in the TV show, which does raise doubts as to whether it amounted to a substantial murder theory or not. Apart from that, we got to witness that Asunta's parents were going through a divorce around the time she got murdered. Also, her adoptive mother had extensive mental health problems, and a divorce on the way would have definitely aggravated her senses. It's quite possible that Asunta, being young and innocent, became the only target source for their projection. It's quite possible that her adoptive parents deemed her a burden or a complication during this time and wanted to get rid of her under the pretext of ending their problems. Another piece of evidence was the accidental breaking into the house by an individual who came down to just kill off the young girl and was hidden by the parents from the police during the investigation. At that time, Rosario had fought off the criminal, but then again, there was no reason for them to hide this incident unless they were somehow involved in it. Asunta had also informed about this incident to one of her friends over social media. However, Porto still hadn't resorted to taking any help from the authorities. It's also possible that this was an intentional stunt by the showmakers. The whole thing about not revealing the true intention of the parents behind this gruesome murder definitely doesn't serve right. This might be a properly planned thing so as to lead the audience haywire and render them confused about the whole motive behind the murder. It's difficult to convict people solely based on circumstantial evidence in a trial, but it's not impossible though. However, the thing that seems off in this operation is that during the complete investigation and trial, they were able to comprehend the motive of the parents for doing such an act. Another possibility that arose was regarding her being medicated with the mother's drug. It's quite possible that Asunta might have been going through her teenage rebellious phase, and her parents were divorced. Maybe they sought to control or manipulate her in some way, so as to make things a bit easier for themselves, especially the father. Maybe the parents felt her becoming more disobedient or difficult and chose to drug her, which eventually led to her being murdered, unfortunately. However, this theory was not also proved to be true, rendering it futile. The TV series explores the cost of human life and its consequences for people. It also portrays how justice is so important and that serving justice is the most optimal choice. It also shows the investigation's understanding and the struggles in trying to join all the missing pieces together so as to reach a conclusion. A crime is never about an individual. It's always against society. One of the reasons not shown in the show as a possible theory behind her murder was her becoming an heir to inheritance. Some of the media reports stood for the same, and she was about to gain a significant significant amount of money. This could very well be the motive behind killing her off, given that her mother was a totally gone case and would probably fix things in her own crooked way anytime. However, this possibility was ruled out as Asunta's godmother revealed to everyone that Asunta's grandfather didn't leave behind any inheritance for her. There was also no murder weapon present at the scene or anywhere else. In fact, this led to serious trouble during the investigation as the cause of death couldn't be identified in a proper manner. It hindered the understanding of the crime on multiple levels. The couple was convicted by the court for primarily two reasons. The first being that Asunta was drugged with lorazepam, her mother's medication, for over 3 months prior to her death. A total of 27 pills were in her blood just before her death. Asunta's teachers became substantial witnesses in the prosecution case when they accused her of being dizzy on several occasions. The couple denied any ill intention in the whole thing and tried to dismiss it off as an allergy issue developed by the young girl, for which they advocated her with the drug. However, it was found that the medication lorazepam could hardly suffice for an anti-allergy drug, and most importantly, Asunta didn't have any allergies in the first place to receive such medications. They didn't even take her to the hospital when she was feeling ill and out of place. This primarily convinced the jury of their guilt, as no reasonable man would have done so. During the investigation, when Asunta's shirt was found, a trace of sperm was also found near her neckline. This belonged to Carlos Murillo, who was alleged to have been known for sexual assaults previously too. However, on the fateful day, he had a strong alibi, which ruled out his possibility of doing anything unnatural with the young girl, and therefore another suspect, apart from the parents, wasn't made out. Marvelous verdict. The Asunta case has tried to cover up all the major possibilities and the truth from the real tragedy to the maximum. There were barely any misses from the whole real story. The show also tried to maximize its impact on the audience by trying to show how a crime impacts society as a whole. The whole investigation and trial procedure were shown to the utmost reality, and though the real motive behind it wasn't established in the series, in reality too, the case wasn't able to establish a proper motive. It was the surrounding evidence that pointed to the guilt of the accused in a clear way, and hence the parents were convicted. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.